Okay, I am starting this. This is what, take 4? I don't know. Whenever I turn on the camera, I suddenly can't talk. The words just won't come out. It's ridiculous. And I have to remind myself of the hymn that we sometimes sing at Mass, Be Not Afraid, because why should I be afraid to talk to a camera? It's not like anybody's really listening. I'm at the park right now. It is beautiful. As you can see, the sun is out today. It's warm. The sky is very blue, but obviously it's still winter. You can see that the trees indicate that it's still winter. I mean, as if that weren't completely obvious to anyone. It is February. February is usually the coldest month in at least everywhere I've lived in New Mexico. January is usually slightly warmer, and there's often a false spring in January. You know that it's a new year. The Christmas holiday has passed, and January will trick you into believing that it's springtime, and then it'll get cold in February. But today it's very warm. I would say it's probably about 70 degrees and quite breezy out here. It's lovely. I'm sitting here drinking coffee from my miraculous St. Patty's mug and enjoying the weather. And my house is kind of chaotic right now. That's why I decided to walk down here. It's nice. Today we celebrated the presentation of the Lord at Mass. That is one of the oldest feast days of the church. And I don't know about you, if you went to Mass today, if you felt the heavy presence of the Holy Spirit, just maybe that's Christ's presence. I'm not sure, but I felt it very strongly at Mass today. We did Candlemas, goes along with the presentation of the Lord. So the presentation of the Lord is when Mary and Joseph take Jesus and present him to the temple. So it would be also the purification of Mary when she is purified 33 days after the circumcision of Jesus. And it falls, I think, the 40th day after Christmas is when we do that. The Feast of the Presentation. You'd have to verify those numbers because I often am running off of what information is stored in my head, which might be wrong. That's terrible. Anyway, so the presentation of the Lord goes along with what we also call Candlemas, and Candlemas literal means, Mass of the candles, in which we light candles, carry them out into the world as a representation of the light of Christ, because Christ has come and he has now been presented in the temple. Mary's purification has passed, and this is significant. It's significant that the Savior was presented at the temple, and the passage that the feast day comes from is in Luke, and I believe it's Luke 2 something. Actually, what's kind of funny is I think it's like Luke 2:22 through something. Again, I have to look that up. But the funny thing is I accidentally filmed a video while walking here, not the whole way because I turned it off when I realized, but like 2 minutes and 22 seconds a video, and it's mostly sky because of the way I was holding my phone, and I was even singing. So I caught a recording of myself singing Madre Eres Ternura. I love that song. It's very beautiful, and I was singing it while I was walking. I like to sing and walk at the same time because singing makes me happy and walking makes me happy. So you do both at the same time in the sunshine, and you have a three-way recipe for joy and happiness, especially with a sweet song like that one. Anyway, but it was 2 minutes and 22 seconds, but I'd have to look that up. But I think that it is in Luke chapter 2 when we have the presentation of Jesus in the temple. Anyway, so people bring their candles to Mass, and the candles are blessed, and then they carry the light of Christ out into the world. Hopefully, as my priest said, if you're driving, please don't take a lit candle out, because you should be driving with two hands instead of one. You don't want to have like fire in one. And anyway, but So maybe if you're walking to Mass or the passenger, you can take a lit candle out. Otherwise, your candle's just blessed and you can light it when you're at home. But another tradition in the church is to celebrate the St. Blaise feast day on February 3rd. And at the St. Blaise feast day, the priest will do a blessing of throats, and I think I'm going to go on my lunch hour. I'm going to go get my throat blessed because I think that especially during the winter when it gets so dry and raspy, it's difficult to sing sometimes. So I'm going to go get my throat blessed, and hopefully that will help me sing at Mass and be a cantor at Mass. Somebody is coming in the park. Maybe he's just going to walk around the park. That's fine. I'll keep talking. I feel really awkward making videos when there are strangers around, but I guess that is the way of the world right now. You often find people making videos in random places, and maybe they just think I'm talking on my phone, or they think I'm crazy and talking to my phone, talking on my phone versus to my phone. I am literally talking to my phone right now, to the camera on my phone. Yeah, so I don't blame anybody for wanting to come to the park today because it's been so awful cold here, and yeah, I don't like it. I want my warm New Mexico sunshine. I do. Yeah, the person just left, so I don't have to worry about it anyway. Where was I at? Oh yes, I'm gonna go get my throat blessed. That tradition has been around for a long time as well, the blessing of the throats, because St. Blaise is associated with illnesses of the throat because there's a legend about him. Now, when I say legend, I mean we don't really know the truth of the story because a lot, gosh, stumbling over my words. Okay, rewind. Going backwards. Okay, start again. So, St. Blaise was an Armenian bishop in the 4th century as well. He was martyred for the faith. He would not give up his faith. In that time in Armenia, there was a lot of persecution towards Christians, and Armenia has a fairly long history of persecution towards Christians, although at the same time they also have one of the longest standing Christian churches. So yeah, there are a lot of persecution, and in his time, now Constantinople had recently converted to Christianity and had made it the official Church of Rome. Due to that, and there was some suspicion of now Armenia for a very, very short time in its history was part of the Roman Empire, but they really weren't for very long. They weren't under the Roman Empire, but they were sort of caught between the Roman Empire and and the rest of the world. So they're kind of one of these in-between places where they weren't really part of the Roman Empire, and they really didn't want to be under the Roman emperor. And so at that time, Christianity was suspect because Constantine had converted, and that was very recent to his martyrdom. It happened very soon after that conversion. Now, Christians had also been persecuted just because of other pagan faiths, like Zoroastrianism, I think, was one of the main religions in Armenia. Anyway, all that being said, he would not give up his faith, and he went and hid in this cave for a hermitage to pray and fast before God. He felt called to do that. Also probably felt called to get away from people who might, behead him, which is what happened. He was beheaded. But some hunters found him. He was dragged to prison, and the story goes that while he was in prison, he rescued a boy who there's a bee right in front. Hi, little bee. Anyway, he really likes my camera for some reason. Maybe because I don't know. I don't know why he likes my camera. Yeah, little bee. I don't have anything sweet. Coffee is not. I don't even put sugar in my coffee, or almost never put sugar in my coffee. Anyway, so he was dragged to prison, and while in prison, the legend goes that he cured a boy who was choking on a fish bone, and ever since was known as the saint of illnesses of the throat. And when people had illness of the throat or were choking on something, then they would pray to Saint Blaise to cure them. And so that is where the tradition comes from of blessing of the throats at the Saint Blaise feast day at the Mass. But the interesting thing is, because it falls after Candlemas, it is also the tradition to take the 2 candles that were blessed at the Candlemas, to sort of tie them together in the shape of a cross, put them in front of your throat, and then the blessing is done at that point. I, being the terrible person that I am, forgot to take a candle to Candlemas, so when I go get my throat blessed, I'm not going to have 2 candles, or even 1, because I forgot. But maybe I'll ask a priest to bless a candle next week. I don't know. I always keep candles lit. Candles, when you light a candle and pray, I keep one lit all the time in the church. It's just, I think of it, and I think of it as my prayer constantly going up to heaven. And so, yeah, I always keep a lit candle. I just pay like a monthly fee and then light my candles all month. Anyway. But yeah, I didn't get one blessed. All the candles in the church are blessed by being in the church, I would assume. Anyway. So yeah, I'm going to go get my throat blessed tomorrow. That is the what's going on in the Catholic Church with the presentation, the blessing of candles, carrying the light of Christ out into the world, and then getting your throat blessed on Saint Blaise feast day. All very old, Saint Blaise dating to the 4th century, the presentation as a feast day celebrated since the 4th century, very old celebrations. And I am not really sure the first time there was the blessing of throats at a Mass for the Saint Blaise feast day. That probably dates to a later time, but I think he was associated with the healing of throats much earlier than doing the blessing of throats at Mass. Beautiful day. Yesterday, I went to Lubbock and trying to get my daughter a car. And it just reminded me, because I was thinking of putting sugar in my coffee. I don't usually do that. Like on a very, very rare occasion, I'll put a little raw sugar packet in my coffee with cream, and that has a delicious flavor, and it's just revivifying to my mind and heart and soul. I do like that, but I rarely ever drink that. Usually it's just black coffee. But while we were in Lubbock yesterday, we went to an Indian restaurant called the India Palace, and literally it doesn't even look like that. There's this like practically vacant strip mall that has one restaurant blinking that it's open, and it's like this little hole in the wall. Literally looks like you can hardly even tell there's a restaurant there. And we walk in, and it's completely empty. We're greeted by one man wearing his turban. And seated, and in this completely empty restaurant. It says he's open till 10, and apparently it's just him. He's the only one there. It looks like he's cleaned up the whole restaurant, probably had a little lunch rush, because obviously they have a lunch buffet there, and then most Indian restaurants do. That's just become really common. And probably had a little dinner rush, but we, having gotten stuck at the car place filling out paperwork, my daughter was filling out paperwork. I was just, I just rode with her. Anyway, what am I saying? I don't know. It was fairly late by the time we got there, and my brain isn't functioning, probably because I was out too late, driving back from Lubbock late, and then getting up early to go to Mass, to go to choir practice and then Mass. We went to this little Indian restaurant and ordered chai. Now this chai was the best chai that I have ever had. Fresh ground spices, like he literally ground his own spices for chai. And that's how chai is supposed to be made, not just this tea bag that has tea plus spices added to it. No, fresh ground spices. And it was so delicious that, looking around wondering, well, a hole in the wall can go either direction. It can be like the best thing you ever had, or it can be really bad. But it was really, really good. I don't know if it's the best Indian food I've ever had, because I really haven't lived in a place with enough of an Indian population where I can judge between restaurants. There is a place in Albuquerque called the Taj Mahal that we used to go to, and I enjoy that, but I don't know that it's like the best Indian food ever. It's just what was available up there. Anyway, so we drank this chai and with sugar, and it was so delicious. It was like you go do something kind of, I guess it was fun for my daughter to get her car. It's not a brand new car, a used car, but she needed a vehicle. Hers was completely broken, like was just not worth fixing, so she needed a car. And so she was probably excited, but really for me it was just an exhausting day. I just felt kind of like ready to fall asleep, even though we had the trip all the way back from Lubbock. And like I have said in previous videos, Roswell's 3 hours from anywhere, including Lubbock. So that chai was so wonderful and delicious. And then I had like a lamb curry, and it was so good. And there were like, again, fresh spices, like biting into fresh chunks of ginger. Like he probably had things pre-prepared, because it didn't take him hours to make, or it didn't take him that long to make the food, but it was clear that he had freshly prepped everything. So good, so wonderful. It was just him. And I'm sure that he has more staff when he has his lunch buffet going, and probably when he gets a little bit of a dinner rush. But if you're ever in Lubbock, India Palace, it looks like practically like there's nothing there, but it has really good food, good restaurant, and I recommend it. I just wanted to bring that up because, I don't know, weird associations, like when the bee was in my cup of coffee when there's no sugar there. So why does the bee want caffeine? I don't know why the bee wants caffeine without sugar, but but it just reminded me of that revivifying chai. It was so delicious. Okay, so that being said, we have now discussed the presentation of the Lord, Candlemas, St. Blaise Feast Day, and the fact that I'm going to go get a blessing of throats. Well, I don't have more than one throat, so it's just going to be my throat. But the priest will bless other people's throats, so that's why plural, I guess. But I just was suddenly imagining myself with multiple heads, but I'm not a Hydra, so I don't really have that. Anyway, yeah, and then what else did I want to talk about besides wonderful Indian food, chai, Lubbock? Oh yes, I did not do my interview last week because she canceled, and then she rescheduled for Tuesday, and then she canceled again. And so this is why I stopped doing interviews. It's either going to flow or it's not going to flow. I want to use terms like either it's meant to be or not meant to be, and sometimes when we want something, like fate really has nothing to do with it. We have to work hard and make the effort and go after something that we want. But for me, for these interviews, just because my life is too busy and I have too much going on, I'm trying to write books and work and do, all of the things that I have at my church, my parish. I have too much going on, so I'm not going to work that hard. Either they're going to flow or they're not. And the first few interviews I did flowed. Like, they really encouraged me because every person said yes, and I had, one right after another, and it was wonderful. And then after that, it was like every time I would ask somebody, they would say no, but if they did say yes, they would cancel, and they would reschedule, and then they'd cancel again. And it just became months and months of this, and it's like, I just I feel like I'm just done. Hopefully I will reschedule with Philomena because I really want to interview her. I think she is an intriguing person. I loved listening to her. She's a great speaker, she's a great teacher, and I want to interview her. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and I'm not going to fight it. It's either going to flow or it's not going to flow, and that's the reality. I did make a post saying that it had been canceled and wouldn't happen. So I didn't leave it dangling. I did make a post. Whether it really went through anybody's YouTube feeds, whatever, I don't know. I don't control those algorithms. I have almost 0 followers, so I have a few. Thank you for following me. And if you do like listening to my videos, you can like and subscribe. So that's the deal with my interview. I don't know. I have no answer to why the first 4 went through so easily and then it was like pulling teeth after that. I don't know, because like for a couple of those people I knew, not like best friends or anything, not well. Well, especially at the time I didn't know Mark as well as I know him now, because he had been recently hired at my parish, so I didn't really know him that well. But I know him a lot better now. But Peggy, like, I don't know her well. Like, sometimes we go do something together, but yeah, but she said yes. And then the other 2 interviews I didn't know those people at all, but they were happy to do interviews with me. And it felt like this was the direction that my YouTube channel was going to go. I was going to do more interviews, and then it just like every door just kept slamming, slam in my face. So like I said, either it's going to flow or it's not. I'm not going to like bang my head against the wall to try to get those interviews. I don't have a huge channel, so it's not like I can really promote people that well. And honestly, somebody like Philomena, I think she would like to do it. It's just she had things come up last week, and so she had to cancel. And really, she's not looking for promotion anyway. She's just a teacher. She's not looking to sell books or present their music like the accordion player that I interviewed. Anyway, actually, if you go to his Facebook page, either Grupo Maldad or Fabian Anaya, he is selling a single to help. It's like his way of doing a GoFundMe without using the GoFundMe or Kickstarter apps. It's his way of making money so that he can produce his next album. And so if you go to his page, Fabian Anaya, I'm trying to think, it's like Fabian, is it Fabian Aranaya, or yeah, I mean, it would be associated with Grupo Maldad, and you would see him with an accordion, so you would know it's the right one. Anyway, so you can support him by buying that single. And it's a nice single. I bought it. It's only $5. I mean, you'd say, well, that sounds like a lot for a single, but it's really not if you consider that you're supporting somebody's artistic venture. I used to support author work all the time, comic books and people's books. I would give to GoFundMes and Kickstarters all the time, but I just got to where like I was feeling very poor, and I kind of stopped. I think it was during COVID. I don't think I did too much supporting after COVID, maybe a little bit, and I just got really burnt out. I was supporting a lot of people and nobody was supporting me, and that seems really selfish, but there is some selfishness, you hope that if you give to the world that they'll give back, but I think that you have to give honestly. You have to be willing to give knowing that you may never get a return for it. But I think that there is that, you hope for that reciprocity, and it never really happens. So it is what it is. I do like to support local artists and writers, and not even just local ones, people who are friends. I like to support them too. But I think it's even better to support local people, local musicians, local artists, local authors. It's a good thing. It's very beneficial to our culture and to our society when we support them and we don't expect everything for free. And it's how we have a culture of arts, when we're willing to spend money, not getting everything for free, downloading music for free. And like, I pay monthly for Spotify, and oh my goodness, I'm pretty sure that musicians get like literally pennies off of that, and I feel kind of bad, so it makes me feel a little happier when I'm able to give something either through going to a live show, paying for a live show, or buying a single like that to help somebody produce an album. It's always a good thing. Anyway, so all that is to say, I can't do much to promote people because I don't have a big platform, but I do what I can, and hopefully at some point the word of mouth will work for me too, and people will say, gosh, Jill's a great writer and you should get her books, and that's what one hopes for at some point. And I'll put the link to my books, my Amazon page, in the description box. I always do. So if you want to try out my Roswell based comedy murder mystery ghost stories, then you can go do that, and and maybe you'll like it. So that brings me to my last point. I think that I finally got the wind back in my sails to finish this book, the second delivery driver ghost story murder mystery that takes place in Roswell. I think that I know where it's going. I know how to finish. I always know where it's going, but I always get lost along the way, even if I create an outline. It's just what I do, because I could say that I have a capricious muse or it's just me. I can't stick to an outline because that's just really boring, and it kind of just like subverts the creative process. So then I throw all these monkey wrenches in there, and that's when I get lost, and then I have to find my way again. And so I think I found my way, and I worked through that last week. It was great. And I have new chapters and new work, and I think that I'm going to finish soon. And maybe because I really feel like the book is a mess, but I always feel like it's a mess when I'm in the midst of it. But I really do. But so maybe this time I will hire a comprehensive editor and not just a line editor or a proofreader. I might do that this time, just because my brain just feels like it can't take any more. And that is about it. That's all I have to say. I've rambled on for almost 30 minutes, and so I think I'm going to shut this down, and I am going to go eat some lunch because I am really hungry, and it's probably pushing towards noon. It might even be noon. I don't know. I came here around 11-ish, I'm pretty sure, so I don't know. But it took me a while to finally get the camera rolling, because a lot of times I'm like, I turn it on and then I stare at the camera and no words emerge from my mouth. But I'm gonna go play my accordion too. That's what I'm gonna do, and then prepare my week, because you kind of have to do that, like laundry and all that. Especially if you go to Lubbock for the day, you still have to come back and do laundry. At least most people do. Most normal human beings. Okay, so we'll see you again.